Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the public board meeting of December 13th, 2022 for SD 72 Campbell River. I'd like to start this evening's meeting by acknowledging that the Campbell River Board of Education this meeting this evening is taking place on the traditional territories of the Lord. Please note that there is a short production delay between the live event that you are viewing and the meeting participants. The question and answer function will be open for questions on agenda items throughout this virtual meeting, and a final call for questions will be made after the last agenda item, with the questions being addressed before the end of the session. For my chairperson's remarks this evening, I would like to start by describing our week. So it has proven to be a busy start to this term, with our new governance team traveling to our first BCSTA series of meetings. This first BCSTA, and for those of you that don't like acronyms, the BC School Trustees Association organized conference of the new term was titled Better Boards, Brighter Futures, and saw 40% newly elected trustees in attendance. Coupling that with the 43% of trustees elected in 2018, there has been a significant change in the governors of public education in the province of BC. It is with numbers such as these that an organization such as BCSTA and their professional development becomes even more important. Skilled facilitators challenged us as governors to look for solutions that created space where every child felt safe. It guided the audience to seek out and lean into Indigenous ways of knowing, being, and learning. It inspired us collectively to examine the success measurements we impose on kids in the education system and reflect on whether that which we teach really translates into the real world skills of tomorrow's necessities. The time spent together allowed us the opportunity to better get to know one another as a team and left me feeling inspired about the work that we can accomplish together. We also had an opportunity to celebrate together the successful negotiations and ratifications of the provincial and local teacher contracts. These conversations helped to frame for new trustees some of the historical complexities of labor contracts here in BC, and it is very uplifting to know that we are entering the holiday season with labor contracts that need not weigh on our teachers' minds. Speaking of the holiday season, even as we grumble and gripe about shoveling and road conditions, there truly is something special about the snow, isn't there? To just kind of bring the season to spark the holidays, especially with the snow days. Being toasty inside, surrounded by loved ones, relaxing, enjoying time spent creating new or celebrating enduring traditions, of unwinding into days without structure, if only for a short time. Sharing goodwill with those around us, perhaps helping out someone in greater need, taking moments to express gratitude for the gifts we all receive, and reconnecting with friends. As we as a district wrap up programs for the 2022 portion of this school year, we as a board would like to acknowledge all staff members in our system for the extra personal sacrifices that you have made to carry the children under your care through the extraordinary times of the last 2 years. Please enjoy a safe and relaxing and wonderful holiday season. May your days be filled with laughter and love, and we look forward to bringing in the new year of 2023 with you when we all safely return on Tuesday, January 3rd. Thank you. All right. So I would like to move on to superintendent's remarks.
Well, thank you very much, Chair Eddie. I would like to start tonight by thanking our staff and community for taking the time to respond to the board's request for feedback as they consider direction for the next strategic plan. We have had 896 responses to the survey, of which 566 were parents and 77 were community members, the rest being staff and a few of the students. We do have plans to gather student voices early in the new year, and I know that the board will be considering all the information that is gathered. The few weeks in December are super busy in schools, lots of learning, spirit days, and winter celebrations. And I wanted to thank our community for your support during these the school activities, and also for your patience and understanding during our days with heavy snowfall. I wanted to share just a little example of some of the activities that take place, and to specifically thank Navenka, the principal of Pinecrest, who sang her way across the field into the school board office and was accompanied actually by even more accomplished singers than she herself was. And just these little folks from Pinecrest sharing their winter cheer, and also some very funny jokes that are worth repeating. So I'm looking forward to entertaining my children with some great dad jokes that the kids shared today. I also want to acknowledge that many of our schools are heavily involved at this time of year in fundraising and in supporting charitable causes. There's been many examples across our district of student leadership in these initiatives, and I think also, from my understanding, some fairly friendly competition between schools as they raise funds and food for various organizations. I wanted to also update trustees and community that following up the $607,000 that the district received to support families and students with an affordability fund, that we have been able to support some of the food security needs for families that have been identified within our school district to require that support to the tune of close to $45,000 over the Christmas break. That hope is to provide some of that security while schools are out. I wanted to share that one of the tasks that lies ahead very early in the new year is consulting with a calendar committee to bring the next 3 school years forward to the school board for approval prior to the end of March. Well, I'm not sure if young Zachary from Ocean Grove knew about this process, but I did want to take a moment tonight to read a very nicely written letter that I received from my new friend Zachary that reads as follows. Dear Mr. Morrow, I think we need a 4-day week because 1, 5 days is too long, too exhausting for everybody. It would also be good for the teachers because then they can do more on the weekends. They can relax more, and for the students that do sports, it would be good because what if they have a game on Friday or Monday? Then it wouldn't cut into their school time. If we only did 4 days, it would be a big money saver for gas, such as transportation. And it would be a money saver for power. And it would be a big money saver for heat. So please change it so there's no school on Monday. Sincerely, Zachary. Well, I think that not only was Zachary's letter so well written, and the penmanship, by the way, far exceeds anything that I have written, that I think the other students in Miss K's class were inspired. So they also wrote a letter, which I won't take all of the time to read, but suffice to say, I think every single student's signature is on that, also asking for a 4-day week. So with that in mind, I prepped up for all of the tough questions that I might face, and I headed off to Ocean Grove to confront a very determined group of young students around this initiative for the 4-day work week. And boy, were they better prepared than I was. I took on some tough questions. So excellent. They had made welcome signs. I was so well received. And we actually not only talked about maybe reasons for a 4-day or 5-day, but what do we do during school that makes the days feel shorter? What are some of the best parts about being at school? And I can assure you, those students shared all of the cool things that happen each week in Miss K's class. And so just really enjoyed it. I invited myself back. I hope they have another issue. It was a beautiful class to visit. I exchanged some awesome high fives, but I wanted to finish by thanking Zachary and the class for taking the time to engage around things that matter. And I wanted to commit to Zachary, if he's watching, that we will start our first calendar committee with Zach's letter, and we will look at some of those pieces. So I look forward to sharing Zach's letter and my learning from that group of very articulate young students with the calendar committee in January. And lastly, I just want to wish all of our students, our staff and extended community a safe and wonderful winter break from school. And I am looking forward to what I believe will be an awesome 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. And thank you, Zachary. So moving on to the approval of the minutes of the meeting of November 15th, and the motion reads as follows. that the minutes of the meeting of November 15th, 2022 are hereby approved as circulated. So moved by trustee Hagan, seconder trustee Gladish. Any discussions? All those in favor? So moved. Moving down to business arising from the minutes. Unfortunately, our associate superintendent Phil Sismic is not with us this evening. So on to the public health officer update. Associate Superintendent Kyle.
I'm going to combine, if it's okay with you,
Absolutely.
Chair Eddie, the public health officer and current public health recommendations. So the information that has been shared with us by Dr. Enns, the North Island public health doctor, is that they are not reporting COVID numbers. That is now to the wayside, but they are finding it, flu numbers are increased in our area versus COVID. So that is what our region is experiencing. And what they are recommending is that, you still do a lot of hand washing and continue to stay home when you're not feeling well, and encourage little ones and everyone to make sure that they are up in their vaccination. So that is the public health recommendations and information that they are sharing. There was a letter sent to principals last week to share with families those kinds of piece of information from public health, and asked to share that with their school communities.
Thank you, Associate Superintendent Kyle. Is there any questions on the board? Seeing none, moving on to the second point of 4, which is the French immersion. We have had an opportunity. This item came up on last week's public agenda, or last meeting's public agenda. And after further discussion amongst the board, we have tasked the Associate Superintendent with an information session regarding the French immersion program, the details of which we'll describe more thoroughly for you before we put the effort and energy into gathering that information for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. So on to 5. Are there any additions or alterations to the agenda? Seeing none, the motion reads that the agenda is hereby approved as circulated. May I have a mover? Trustee McMahon, seconded by trustee Hagan. Any discussion? All those in favor? And on to the report of board decisions from December 13th, confidential.
We attended the matters in accordance with Black 72.3 pertaining to administrative, teaching, and support staff. And due to restriction in time, we'll be returning to conclude our meeting after this.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gillis. Seeing that there's nothing under correspondence, public submissions, or agenda submissions, I'd like to move on to 11A, Quadra Elementary School wetland. Very excited about this presentation. And who, come on up. I'm sorry, Scott?
No, it's Sheldon.
Sheldon, I'm sorry.
Sheldon Etheridge.
And I'd like to introduce Sheldon Etheridge. And Laurel.
Okay, well, I'm going to be presenting on our exciting wetland project. So I'll begin. So the wetland project vision is to restore wetlands to restore a wetland to enhance student experiential nature-based learning and community access opportunities to an ecosystem which will provide important habitat for wildlife and climate change adaptation and resilience. Restoring wetlands at Quadra Elementary School will mitigate impacts of wildfire, floods, and extreme weather events by capturing, cleaning, and storing water, and capturing and storing carbon. The wetland restoration project will restore important habitat for species at risk and other wildlife. Just on that note, actually, we did see a blue dasher dragonfly, which is actually a blue listed species. So they're already coming in there, which is pretty exciting. So an overview of my presentation tonight. So I'm just going to really briefly touch on the importance of school greening, a background of the project, and then discuss some consultation and partnership with First Nations, go through the approval, design, and construction, the planting celebration, and then the future of the project, and also highlighting some really cool student learning. All right, so school greening projects provide easy, daily, hands-on access to natural phenomena. They provide opportunities to foster a sense of wonder. They provide opportunities for students to overcome fears of other organisms, and they instill a sense of care for the environment. So background of the project. In 2019, Quadra Elementary School became a wild school. It's a really cool program through the Habitat Conservation Trust. And they provide a facilitator and a little bit of funding for schools to really engage with just outdoor and experiential nature learning. And so we chose the theme of Quadra Island watersheds. And so we learned all about the watersheds of Quadra Island and spent a lot of time in the watersheds. And then in the fall, winter of 2020, so this is post COVID, got shut down, but of course we were still in the thick of COVID, and I had kind of a unique opportunity to run a small outdoor classroom for students that wanted to be working with other students, but not within a school situation. So we were in a back part of the school property in a little forest. We were trudging across the field on a lot of the days, and the field's really, really wet and really, really mucky. And just all of a sudden it kind of hit me, and in a couple of conversations with a colleague of mine, Lori, and she went to the elementary school in the 1960s and 70s, and she remembers that as being a much more natural wetland area before the field had been created. So to me, that wet, mucky, undrained space was just really desperately wanting to become wetland. So that was where the vision came from. So I did a little bit of research and contacted the BC Wildlife Federation because they really seemed like the right organization to help pull off a significant project. And then our wild school theme became wetlands. We really wanted to engage the whole school in learning about wetlands. So that's what we did. So really briefly, I'm going to talk about the Wetlands Education Program. So their mandate is to restore, enhance, conserve wetlands across BC. And so in September 2021, after some back and forth conversations with them, they decided that they really wanted to get behind the project. They were really excited. So in September of 2021, they decided that, okay, your project is going to be a core funding priority. And then what they did was they contracted a woman from Cortez, Miranda Cross, who's a local restoration specialist, to design and project manage the construction and design of the wetland. During this process of working with the Wildlife Federation, one thing that I was really incredibly impressed with was all of the collaboration and consultation with First Nations. So initially they consulted with the Weewokai, the Weewokum, the Homalco, and the Klahoose, just to kind of make sure that they were okay with the project and breaking ground on this project. But they, of course, were very excited. And the Weewokai Nation was sort of asked to further become involved. We had an elder consultation and blessing ceremony in the spring of 2022, which included the Weewokum and Weewokai elders. And through that process, the Weewokai Guardians were engaged to culturally monitor the project and also assist with the planting. So the design and construction process, we consulted with interested community members and organizations such as the Island Climate Action Network. We had a planting consultation with the elders and the guardians, and that really prompted us to include traditional ecological knowledge. So they were really keen on having a role in saying what kind of plants that they really wanted to see, and some memories of harvesting certain berries and things like that are associated with wetlands, And so it was really neat to have their voice included from the very beginning. And finally, after sort of the design was formalized, we broke ground on the 15th of August, basically just this past summer. So here's just some pictures of the project as it was being big machines and everything like that. Just to give you a sense of the scale, the wetland and the associated like planted area around the wetland is close to 25,000 square feet. So about half an acre in size, which is pretty significant size. So I'll just touch really quickly on the approval process that kind of unfolded. So the first part of the process was getting a letter of support from the principal of the school, and actually that was Fred Schaub at the time, and then renewed by Laurel when she became principal. And then we had Jeremy Moreau over in the spring, and we shared with him, or my students kind of shared with him their enthusiasm of the project, and I think at that point it's pretty hard to say no. Hey? So of the project, and then we received a letter of support from Superintendent Moreau. Consultation with the operations manager of the school district to really make sure that we weren't impacting any infrastructure, school district infrastructure in the construction of the wetland. Consultation and then partnership with local First Nations. We did consult with the Strathcona Regional District and also the Ministry of Transportation to make sure that there were no downstream effects that they were concerned about. And then finally, we did go through a permitting process with the province of BC and also the Department of Fisheries and Oceans to make sure that the project was not damaging any fish habitat or sensitive habitat or impact water, wells, that kind of thing. Probably for me and Laurel, the most exciting part of the project was when we got to plant 500 shrubs and trees and plants associated with wetlands and the riparian zone, and it was just a really spectacular ceremony celebration. The elders and community members were able to participate in a tree planting ceremony, and it was a beautiful traditional blessing given by a Wikai elder. We had 130 students who planted, watered, mulched, and seeded the new wetland, which was it was just an amazing process and feeling to be there. So there is just a picture of part of the wetland basin that's now frozen and covered in snow, but it's finally filled with water. It took a long time because, as you know, we had a very dry spring, but that's now all full of water. So the next steps and the future of the project. We have begun a consultation with the Wipai First Nation to have a role in naming the wetland, which I think would be really very special. We have received a little bit of extra funding from the Quadra Literacy Society, as well as some money from the Wild School program to pay for interpretive signage. And so hopefully this can be a student collaborative, student-led project to create some interpretive signage for the wetland. Love to see some artwork up there from our students to create some signs. I also I really feel this is a really important point. The opportunity, I think, for K-12 science, math, and social studies lessons in monitoring the growth and the health of the wetland. I really do hope that over time that this isn't just seen as a Quadra Elementary School project, but really something that can be used and a space for learning for the entire school district. There's so much potential in seeing that project, or to see it unfold and to see what species are coming back and to monitor growth of the plants that were planted. I mean, there's so much there. And also to seek community partners and funding for a possible next stage of the process of the project. BC Wildlife Federation are so excited that they've already actually contracted Miranda to create some next phases, just because it's such a successful project, and there's definitely more that could be done if there's community will. So just threw in some pictures of some really enthusiastic young stewards of the wetland here.
Nobody was more happy to see the rain come this fall than I was. Yeah, nothing like planting a wetland in the middle of a drought. So the soil is like powder. And we ended up having, I think, 17 hoses joined together across the whole field. By the time the water pressure actually got to the end of the hose, it was like a little trickle with 25. It took about an hour to fill the 25 watering cans and 2.5 hours to water the 500 plants for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And in desperation, I actually called the Quadra Fire Department and asked them if they would like to come and shoot the hoses off one night in water practice, and they did, and I think that saved our wetland. So twice they came.
And also teams for at least 2 weekends, teams of community volunteers, as well as every class, I think, was out there every day.
Yeah.
And
staff after school for 2.5 hours watering. It was quite a ordeal, but now it's amazing because there's this much water in the bottom of it and it's already transformed into this incredible place. And we've noticed too that the field that you couldn't walk across this time of year because of the soggy muckiness has already started to heal, and we can actually walk across it now. And the wetland is absorbing the water and keeping it where it should be.
where it should be.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty cool. I'm watching the kids watch the transformation. So classes will go out and do sit spots where they will just sit and nobody talks and they draw their observations. And when they go back in, they share what they noticed and they go out regularly and notice the changes that are happening. And I think we probably saved about 95% of the plants that were planted. And the kids are, they're amazed at what they're seeing, like the conversation, the buzz is really exciting. So kudos to Sheldon for the vision and the team that made it all happen.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'll skip through.
Yes.
There's some fun little projects.
Trustee Briggs.
And I just wanted to acknowledge that we did receive a considerable amount of funding from all of these different government agencies and organizations. And I think it's hard to know exactly, but it was in the realm of like $70,000 that was provided by these funding partners for this project. So, and you know, closer to 75 when you factor in some of the other bits and pieces that have come through as well from community organizations right on borders. Yeah.
It seems a small price to pay for a legacy project. Trustee Briggs. So excited.
Yeah, well done. It's so important for our kids to learn about stuff, especially with all the climate things happening. As someone who went out and watered all my own cattails in my own personal little watershed restoration, yeah, that's a huge job, watering plants at drought. And it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds because we're still in the drought, like very much so. And I don't think a lot of people realize that because we have all the snow and everything on the ground, but the water levels are very low. I'd love to see pictures.
Yeah, totally. That'd be fun to kind of do another, you know.
Love to more go on a field trip.
Trustee Glatch and then Trustee
Okay.
Briggs.
Well, it was an honor to be part of the,
I saw your
the planting.
picture up
Yeah, it was
there.
very nice, thank you. I'm wondering, How much more do the children on Quadra understand now about the effects of climate change? Because obviously you talked about drought and the fact that we didn't have water, many of us almost, lost the water in our wells. There was more learning than just the wetland as a result of this project. And it's ongoing. Is that sort of a theme that seems to be central to Quadra Elementary?
Yeah, we've been in partnership over Wild BC School for 3 years, so we have the pond out the front, and a lot of learning has happened in the pond before the wetland. The kids can tell you about decomposers, about the effects of fungus, edible plants. They can tell you, oh, Sheldon, I mean, you want to learn anything about the forest and our plants that are growing on our property, come and ask any kid in our school and be wowed with the information. Like, they are little experts, like they know more than I. They toured me around last spring and I was like, you can eat that? Like, I don't even know what we were eating, but we were making tea and all kinds of things from edible plants.
Yeah.
There was, I think they identified 15 edible plants just around like the school. They visited wetlands, they've visited marshes, they've had decomposed mushrooms and bugs and you name it. Like they've explored it in depth. They're little experts, really.
Yeah, it really is a wild school. Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it would be fun. Anybody, with a little bit of notice, you could probably get a wild tea party going on. for anybody.
Yeah, one more thing. I can see those little experts being the ones to give the, presentation if other schools came over to visit and to see what you've done, to see what they might possibly be able to do in their own backyards.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really, really impressive.
Yeah, wonderful that you took the time to create and share this. I'm wondering about your personal learning. What are a couple of the takeaways that you have?
Well, where do you even start? Yeah, I think a big one was, that, and I told my students this all the time, like, when you have a dream, sometimes it's the right dream. And so you can follow it. And I was pretty, like, I don't know, I was pretty stubborn. And so I don't know, like, I think that was probably one of the biggest learning pieces for sure.
Thanks for your stubbornness.
Trustee Hagan?
I just love wetlands. I have a little bit of property and I just isolated 15 acres to wetlands on a piece of property, and I had an eagle land right beside a raven while they were feeding on something in my front yard as I was sitting outside, and I'm thinking, wow. And then a bear ran across my car and I thought, where does this get better than this? If we can preserve all the wetlands around us and say, this is where their homes belong. And I have birds' nests, and it is just so beautiful to restore land the way it should be and leave it like that. And I'm really proud of you over there. My son does a lot of work over there, and I think you actually use some of the land that
do.
And it's just nice to work with partners. I see all these friends we have that we can do this with, and what a great idea. And I'm really proud of you guys. What a good job.
Just on a final note, I actually received an email from Kai Taylor yesterday, and he sort of identified a problem spot at Southgate that is always wet, and he was like, oh, so he's going to be walking him through the process. So I think that there's more future for wetlands on school grounds, but not just wetlands. I think any natural habitat that needs or wants to be in a schoolyard should be there. So it's not necessarily wetlands, but it's something for sure, something wild and something natural.
Yeah, thanks. I would just like to comment too, Sheldon. I had the opportunity to visit Sheldon and his students on a day when the water was in the wrong spot. I definitely wore the wrong shoes. So I'm really excited that the field is drier and the water's where it's supposed to be. But I think Sheldon just serves as a reminder that a passionate educator with a vision can fundamentally inspire their learners. And when I was there, even though there was not a wetland, the students had placed on these little sticks what animal or species would be there. And these kids were such advocates for these species that were supposed to be there, but weren't. And I think, again, it was kids who were deeply connected to their learning, rooted in this possibility of reclamation. And it's a really inspiring story. I mean, I have just gratitude for you leading in that space. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It's been inspirational, and having been now to Surge Narrows and knowing about the marine aquaculture course on Cortez, the outer islands are rocketing. Like, bring it over our side. Thanks so much for your work.
Thank you very much for your time. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stage. So moving on, that's so inspirational. It's just so inspirational to hear about the rewilding of our school classes. On to 11B, the parent portal launch, and I'm going to invite Jennifer Patrick up. And Shannon Hagan. Yes, please. Sorry, Shannon.
It's all good.
No.
So thank you very much for having us tonight. We are really excited to share with you a great new way that our schools and our district are communicating with families, and that we are going to be helping families stay on top of all of the information that they need from our schools. So as I mentioned, I'm joined by Shannon Hagan, who is our District Educational Technology Coordinator. Shannon has been working very closely with me on this project, along with Barb Drake, who unfortunately sends her regrets tonight. But both Shannon and Barb have been helping with regards to the technical applications of this project, and then the integration with our information system. So I'm gonna walk you through the parent portal. So we launched the parent portal, which is up on the screen. This is accessible through any internet browser. So web-based primarily, but it's also accessible through a mobile app, which is a first for our school district. And this project was launched district-wide around mid-November after doing beta testing with EDM, Quadra Elementary, and then several of our middle and our secondary schools as classrooms, I should say. So it pulls information from all of our websites. So when you first look at the page, actually we kind of clicked through a little bit fast. So I should backtrack. Parents connect through the parent portal using the email address that they have on file with their child's school. And then, so when they first create the account, they use the email address. We have a multi-factor authentication method that sends a verification code to the email address that they have on file. They have to then supply that verification code into the parent portal or the mobile app for the first time that they sign in. And then that email address matches them to their children in the system. And so once they're logged in, they land on this home page or this landing page that first presents the school board information with a news feed that pulls, like I said, all of the information basically that we put out through the district website, including any emergency notification that we do. So at the very top there, you'll see a bus notice. That's an example of our emergency notifications that go out. So anything like snow closures, bus notifications, that sort of thing get shared along with any of the general stories and news and announcements that we have. And then along the top, you'll see where we're in a test account right now. So we have student 1, CMS 1, and student 2, CMS 2. Those would show as the students' names of the children that are assigned to or connected to that parent. So. Oops. So we also have quick links which connect to our district website. So things like registering your child, applying for bus pass, that sort of thing. And then I'm gonna just show you the calendar. So we have a monthly view of the calendar, which is categorized. Yeah. Scroll up here. Parents can actually do a printout of this calendar view as well. And if you click on any of the events, you get details about the event, and there's a feature for parents to be able to add the event to their calendar so they can subscribe it. It will sync back to a calendar function that they have. So whether it's Google Calendars or anything like that in the mobile app, when they do that, it will connect to their iPhone or their Android calendar as well.
And they can do it so that they can drill down even to say within the school, if they're only interested in the grad information or PAC information, they don't, so that they don't get notified for everything.
So I'll just show you a sample of the student. So when they click on the student, you'll see the same newsfeed structure that comes up. But the difference on this is now it's pulling the information that's populated on their school website, as well as any notification. So the second item down where it says CMS teacher, that's a sample of where a teacher has the option to be able to send messages out through their class using connection between their team's class sites as well. And then they also have the ability to show or to share, teachers do, if they would like to share assignment information. So when you click on assignments, when this is populated, it can show a brief description of the assignment, looking at the second example down, when it's due, and then whether or not that assignment has been handed in.
You scroll down, those are all my tests. There is one, and I'll show it on the app as well. There's the return to discussed. Oh, right there. So it's return and then it goes to point value.
And so the other item that parents can see in here is student details. Now this is view only information that is integrated. It connects back to our MyEd student information system. So when you click on any of the students, you see the contact information that we have on file for the child. Again, this is view only. Any changes to this information has to be made through the school office, as well as things like their PIN number, which is very important for us. That's something that parents often struggle with trying to locate. We require it for bus pass applications. There's other summer school registration, thank you, things like that. So this, being able to access this through the portal is just one more source of information that parents don't have to contact the school office necessarily for on a fairly regular basis. And then we've also got things like whether the student is a bus student and what bus routes they're perhaps assigned to. School contact information, the administrators' names, the school hours, a brief overview of the school schedule, if they need a refresh as to when lunch break or recess break is or anything like that. As well as they can view any emergency contact information that we have on file to make sure that that information is current and up to date, the way that they would like it to be. We also have the ability to provide report card information. So pulling again from what gets populated through MyEd, parents could see the course and the final mark, as well as any teacher comments that have come in. And we are in the process of looking at adding this as like the back data for this. So basically the intent is that parents, as their child progresses through the course of their school career, that they will be able to see all of their marks from K through grade 12. As well, you can also see attendance information. Now this information will be populated on like refresh on an annual basis, but it shows by the school year and then by the month. I really don't like trackpads. And then by the date. So in this particular example, This is an elementary student who attends Pinecrest Elementary. So they were absent on October 18th of 2022 for the morning. So basically the app, as the next portion of this, the app allows us to deliver all of this same information through parents' mobile devices. And especially if they enable notifications through their cell phone, then they get a push notice anytime there's a new news story coming up from their child's school or from the district, or anytime there's an emergency notification. So they can actually get a notice right to their cell phone. Yeah, so, and I think Shannon is gonna show the mobile app piece.
So Clayton and I worked so that we could do a live view, and it just didn't work. So I had to do a recording. And so we'll see how well my narration to the recording works out for this. So as Jennifer mentioned, this is an actual app. So it's not like a shortcut on the mobile device where it's now the web view, which isn't always the best. This was an app that was developed by us. We're still working with the company, and we provide feedback on a weekly basis. Poor Nick, he's back east, and I email him at 10 o'clock at night, and he's emailing me back right away, like, well, 1 o'clock in the morning. And so I just wanted to point out that this really is truly an app that parents can download from the Apple or the Google store. And so when they click on it, again, Jennifer was showing you, it's kind of like the same experience where they get on and the first thing that they see is the board view. And you can see it's very nicely resized and displayed so that the things that are shown on the website are nice. Here is when I tap on the student view, again, information that comes not only from the board, but from the school that they are at, as well as the teacher that I can send through Teams. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit here. And so then once we dive down a little bit more, I can now access the calendar. You can see here, I added a class Christmas party right in my class team and my event calendar there, and it automatically uploaded to here. And in there's information for the parents that they can tap on and look at the description about a little bit more information about that. And that's like if it was attached to the school, we'd be able to see it. Here, we're drilling down a little bit more. We can see that general information that Jennifer showed specifically about the student as well as the school. I did go into it because I know she already did. And then I can look at their grades as well here, nice and easy, term 1, term 2. And like Jennifer mentioned, it is going to be coming up where it's like archived. And with the elementaries and the middle school, it's proficiency. And the high school, it is a percentage still. And you can see it's for each course within that grade, just like the report card is. And Barb's working really hard to get that history. We're so close, so parents can now see as far back as is in my ed. Here's where we can look at their attendance. And again, Jennifer pointed out AM and PM for the elementary. However, once we get into the middle and high schools, we've done it per course, and we update that every 40 minutes. So parents, this is like real-time information. If a student skips a block, it is recognized here right away, which is, when students know that, they're going to be like, oh. Assignments, again, right from here for each student, and that will be per course. So if they have 4 courses at high school, all those will be displayed there. And then this gets updated as the teacher marks those and assigns values to them in the team app. And then it's displayed here every 20 minutes. There's an update that we do every 20 minutes within the app itself. And then you can see here, parents can see the title, and then a description, whatever the teacher puts in a description. If they put a link, then they can link it to an assignment or whatever. And the beauty of this from a teacher side of it is we're already using an application called Teams. You guys are probably familiar with it through your meetings here. So teachers are already familiar with that. And so the 2 learning curves might be is using the discussion post. It's a one-way discussion to our parents, and fortunately or fortunately, I don't know how many times I'd want to get a parent back 30 responses every chat I sent out. And then maybe just using Teams assignments a little bit more. I'm in the process of incorporating that into our teachers' capability. The other thing about this is like Jennifer was saying, it is an ongoing process. And so the developers that we're working with are so good at listening to our feedback. So I reach out to our teachers on a regular basis saying, what are you hearing from the parents? And then we collate that and have meetings with them, and then we provide that feedback to the team, who then is in the process of doing that. So two things that I know that we're missing for our assignments, especially if I want to get the elementary school teachers involved, is the feedback. Like, point values mean nothing to parents, and so they want to see that feedback that the teachers provide in the teams itself.
So we'll be doing a survey of parents in about February, early February, to get some feedback on their experience using the app, what their thoughts are, as well as what other sort of preferred communication methods they have, and their access to devices, to cell phones, that sort of thing. I should say we have heard very promising feedback already. A little teaser to the feedback that you're going to get from the strategic plan survey results. Very first question that we asked, that I was looking through and pulling the comments from the other day, was around what sort of things are going really well in the district and in their schools that they don't want to see changed. And communication and the parent portal and the mobile app were cited several times. So I think that that's a really good indication so far. But as part of that survey and the information that we get back in February, we will be looking at sharing that out with our schools and helping support them in further refining how they may need to communicate within their school communities. Like I said, based on either device access, technology, cell phones, that sort of thing. We have heard a little bit of concern, mainly around staff, like from staff with regards to device access and cell phones and data and that sort of thing. When we do research into internet usage, there's actually more and more families and people in Canada in particular, across the country, that are actually exclusively accessing the internet now through a cell phone. There's actually more indication of it moving in that direction and less access to personal computers and those types of devices in households, and more cell phone and tablet access. So I think this is, like I said, this is just one additional way in which we're looking to provide communication and to reach out to our families and engage with them more. It's by no means the exclusive way.
And only phase one.
Yes.
This is phase one, and we're looking into phase 2 and 3, which is our e-commerce and online forms. So how cool would it be for a parent to not have to pull this wrinkled piece of paper out of this backpack, and it was due 3 days ago, and instead they like, okay, I need to sign this form, one checkbox, boom, and it's done. And even be able to pay online just like that as well. And so that's our phase 2. We're slowly getting them hooked this way, and then we're going to capture them by offering the. And then one of the things that I've really been doing is monitoring things like my battery level and my app level, and how much that is actually using the resources, so that when we hear those concerns from families that maybe don't have the data or the Wi-Fi, that I can respond to that kind of from the techie side of things, that it's really not using very much resource. You know, like my Outlook uses 10 times more than the parent portal does in terms of pulling resources down. So we are aware, and we for sure want to be able to make sure that it's accessible to everybody.
But as younger parents move up the system, this is more in line with what they would like and what they're used to in terms of access.
And the app itself allows guests to access it. So if you download the app And one of the options that we do have is the guest access. You don't need to be a parent, and then you can subscribe to whatever school that you would like to receive notifications from. And let me tell you, as an employee that lives down in Cumberland and wants to know about snow days, I just have to pull up my cell phone and see that notification about school closure without having to fall out of bed and.
That's what made me finally go.
Thank you so much, ladies. That's exciting news, and thank you for moving us forward as a district. It's nice to hear that all of the resources are aligning, that the work around MyEd and all of those pieces are just contributing to us as a district moving forward with our tech portfolio. Any questions from any members of the board? Amazing. Thank you for your description, and keep up the good work, girls.
Yeah.
Okay. On to 12A, elected and board matters. So the board work plan update, as one of the pieces that came out of the BCSTA meeting, I actually left it in the confidential room. There was a calendar that that was presented around the new continuous improvement for student learning data, and some of the reports that we as a board should be looking for that are released on a provincial level. Things like the How We're Doing report that comes out in December around Indigenous education, 6-year graduation rates. There are 5 reports that were mentioned specifically in that learning data that I would like to add to our board work plan. So I've had a chance to speak with Natalie, and Natalie's going to take that data and update our work plan, just so that we as a board moving forward know kind of some of the provincial level reports that we can take a look at when we're asking for data from the team.
Pat?
Yes,
I'm gonna have to leave. I had my lens replaced. I'm starting to get a real bad headache right now, so
absolutely.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Take care.
Please be safe driving home, Daryl.
Yeah, I
You're
got my
okay to
glasses
drive.
out there, and so I'm hoping that's gonna be okay.
Yeah, let us,
Yeah.
please be careful on your way home.
All right, take care.
So there are no educational issues. On to 14A, which is the finance warrant number 5 for November 30th, 2022. So that has been included in your package. And we do require a motion that the finance warrant number 5 dated November 30th, 2022 be accepted as presented. Moved by trustee Gillis. And seconded by trustee Harper. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. On to item number 15A, back to me, and the committee report that came out of the BCSPA Academy. This was the first conference that is referred to as Trustee Academy, and it's designed to guide new and returning trustees in their professional development and to better frame conversations regarding the governance role we together will engage in. It's an excellent opportunity for us to have some time to get to know one another and better understand some of the passions we are holding individually in service of the children under our care. The focus of this year's conference was Better Boards, Brighter Futures, and the sessions revolved around understanding our roles in the changes to come in education, a continued focus and sharing of Indigenous ways of knowing and being, equity across education, and inclusion for all children in our schools. I felt it was a very great conference. It was my first time experiencing Shelley Moore presenting. She's funny, she's vibrant, and she's hard hitting. Like, she just speaks the truth, and it was refreshing to hear her comments regarding inclusion and equity, especially for those kids in our system that have extraordinary needs. I have a lot of gratitude, and I'm sorry that you couldn't attend, Shannon, because you would have really liked this conference.
They did that same speaker the first time too. I actually saw that one.
Yes.
It was very memorable.
Excellent.
4 years ago.
So the next BCSTA event will be in April, and that will be the BCSTA GM. And there'll be updates as that rolls around closer to April. On to 16A, any other business, and Trustee Gillis, the BCSTA Provincial Council motion.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that it was my first time acting as a representative of our trustees. As a member of the provincial council, the 60 school districts are represented there. And there was just one significant motion that came forward, and that was in reference to inflation and cost escalation. And it was, be it resolved that the BCSTA urge the Ministry of Education and Childcare to provide emergency funding adjustments to February budgets in order to address inflationary and cost pressures on districts. And of course, this was the result of emergent pressures on district budgets and the recognition that eventually that this is significant. And I'd just like to report that this was unanimously passed by all 60 districts. So I think we share the sentiments and beliefs in supporting this motion.
Yeah, I hope that it is successful.
Yeah.
In time for February's budget adjustments. So that concludes our agenda. Just looking for questions from anyone present or online on agenda items.
I have, I think just one question. The exhibit, for the finance warrant number 5, the agenda indicates that the exhibit is to come. Will that be put out, on the board site, or
It's there right now.
is it okay? Is it like printed?
No, it wasn't. I can give you a copy.
No, that's great. I can find that. And just a couple of questions. I think the parent portal is being well received by parents, but just remember that when there's a tech change, particularly if there's a component that teachers need to learn to better communicate with parents or things like that, that always puts an additional workload on teachers. So to be mindful of that, particularly if it gets to a point where a lot of teachers are using it and then others feel the pressure to use something that might be optional to begin with. It's very easy to make the transition from it's optional for now into it's now mandatory, or it's an expectation of parents, and then that puts undue pressure on teachers, particularly if the district doesn't have the funding to provide in-service or opportunities for teachers to learn a new technology as it's being implemented and unfolded. And the other last thing, sorry, that was more of a comment than. And I just wanted to let you know that we're very excited to meet with the new board. And I know that this is only, I think, the second official meeting, but you can expect a letter shortly, board chair inviting a group of trustees to meet with CRDTA representatives as outlined in the collective agreement regarding the board liaison committee. So expect that sometimes.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I do appreciate your comments regarding teacher learning, and we are very appreciative of the fact that they have a voice through their local union in sharing that conversation with us. So please, it'd be great if you can keep us abreast of any kind of whispers you hear across your system. It'll just help us to plan to make sure that nobody is not included. And I look forward to getting together with CRDTA and hearing about how things are going. Thank you to the educators in our system, and thank you for your work. Wishing you a very happy and holiday season. Are there any other questions? Any other questions, Jennifer?
No, there's no other questions that have come in online.
So seeing no other questions, I'd like to move for adjournment. Trustee Brains. You're so adjourned.
Oh, yeah.